Good morning and welcome to our webinar on return of trading details. My name is Stephanie Davis and I'm the Managing Director of Pimbrook Software. Just to give you the agenda there for the next 20 minutes, we'll do a quick overview on Pimbrook, just for anybody who doesn't know us. A couple of the statements from our clients. We'll cover off the return of trading details. We have the Q&A. Now there is a chat box available to you because you're all on mute just at the moment. If you want to forward any questions there, I will answer them at the end and I'll leave you my contact details. We're very privileged to be the Sage Irish Partner of the Year for Sage there for the last 4 years, and we base this really ourselves on our customer service. It's something that is firmly at the forefront of our mind all the time, and I think over the last 18 years and servicing over 1,300 customers, we learn every day how to improve over and over. We're very privileged to be associated with the brands on the left-hand side, but more importantly, we're very, I suppose, delighted to be able to see such statements made by these people about Pimbrook and us to be able to be part of their journey through their Sage experience. Right, but enough of that. Why are we here? RTD. So what is that? Well, it provides a breakdown of the supply of goods and services, imports and deductible inputs that apply during the financial year. This includes all Irish, intra-EU and non-EU trade transactions. Quite a mouthful and not something I'm going to dissect with you. What I've done is decided to look at this in a more simplistic form. So what you can see here on the right-hand side here, we've got a box, which is your RTD details. And in each of these boxes are the Sage 50 codes that should be used to populate these. Now that is assuming that you've taken the codes out of the box when you've installed your Sage 50. They can be changed, but more importantly, if you do change them, is that the parameters behind the scenes will apply the same rules here as the Sage ones. So you can see here we've got different columns, different columns there. You have your sales, your purchases in EU and outside EU, both resale and non-resale, all purchases for resale from anywhere, all purchases for non-resale from everywhere. Okay, so these columns are vital that they're populated correctly. For the purpose of the demo today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at T1, T8 and T11. Okay, and they're all based on the 23%. Why are we here talking about this? Well, importantly, what's happened is the tax clearance certificates have been held back if you don't produce your RTD. And more importantly, again, is if you're due any refund of taxes, they will be also held back. So I think it's a good time to have this conversation. Now, what I talk about later on is based on the fact that you've reconciled your VAT return in Sage 50. Now, if you haven't, it's something we can cover offline. So what we have here is I've just taken out again in a summary Excel sheet the breakdown of the purchases and that for you. But the one thing is to note is the notional VAT. Okay, if goods, services were purchased in Ireland, what rate would they have been charged at? So no monetary interaction on these things for the VAT portion, but they must be recorded. So just if you're trying to reconcile your RTD, just make sure that that is taken into consideration. You can also see here the T8 is one of the ones that we'll be concentrating on. Now, when we get calls into support, the one thing that we will ask you, and to be very, very mindful of, is your regional settings. If you don't know where they are, go to your IT and make sure that they can check them for you. Because if these are not set to English Ireland, you won't get access to the RTD functionality. Assuming that they are correct set up, then what you'll see is under the modules, you've got VAT and you got your RTD box. Okay, so you know that you're set up now from that aspect that it will. But what boxes are populated are based on the VAT codes, okay? So you've got your T1. Now, if you've got that for resale, your sales and purchases, non-EC, that's fine for you to use T1 for both purchase and sales. But if it turns out that you have not got these purchases for resale, things like consumables, maybe stationery, etc., then what you need to do is make sure that you're using your T11 code and you don't have the box set for resale. And likewise, if you've ended up with resale purchases that are not in Ireland, but that you want to tick the EC code, then you make sure you're using T8. And again, I refer to the fact that I am using the out-of-the-box Sage 50 codes. So we come back again to our form here, and you can see this is the T1 for sales, but we need to break out the T1 for the purchases of sales. And we've got the T8 here and the T11. Okay, so be very mindful. The setup of your Sage 50 tax codes are very important to allow this function to be available to you. So let's nip into our Sage 50 here now. So I have, if you can see, I have a nice clean database. So I have no transactions in it currently. So I'm just going to go into my configuration and show you there is the tax code setup. So if you're looking to set up and check your tax codes, you're going to settings, configuration, tax codes, and in here you can edit each one of these VAT codes. Okay, and they'll pop up just like I had done in the screenshot for you. Okay, so note your resale, your VAT code, and any linked to or the EC code. Okay, as I said to you, we're going to look at the T1, T8, and the T11. Okay. As I said to you, when you pop into your VAT module, you need to ensure that you've got your RTD button. So just to recap, that was based on our regional settings. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pop in a transaction for each one of these suppliers. And the reason I picked these suppliers is because they have different VAT codes attached to them. So I'll put in a batch invoice. And what we've got here is we just got today's date, and we can put references, nominal codes, not a concern for this demo. I'm going to put in a value for each one of these just to itemize them differently. And you can see here T1, T8, T11 have different VAT codes assigned to them and have different VAT values. So I'll save those. Now, I did also say to you that based on you performing the VAT reconciliation in Sage 50 is where we can produce the RTD. So I have no VAT available at the moment. So I'm just going to calculate my VAT returns, telling me that 3 transactions were found. We can see here that we talked about the notional VAT. That's the ins and the outs. And we can have a look here on the, so there's our 23 for our €100. There's our 46 notional T8 for our 200 and our 115 for our T11. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, again, just to make sure we're nice and clean, I'm going to pop a customer invoice in onto the VAT return. So I'm going to pick up my customer here. Again, today's date, not concerned about the references or the nominal codes. And I'm going to pop in maybe, what we do is maybe €2,000. So at T1, it's €460 in the VAT. So I'm going to save that, close out of that, and I'm going to pop back into my VAT return. So imagine we were starting through all of our months in our Sage 50. So every month, every 2 months, every 6 months, depending when you run your VAT return, you'll be prompted here to calculate. So it's found our 4 transactions now. So we know we've got our 460 for our sales piece here under our T1. And we still got our 46, and we have our notional plus our 460 there in this one. So everything's fine. I'm going to reconcile that. I'm going to flag them as reconciled. What it'll do is it'll pop up a screen now. Now, normally if this was, I was running through a VAT demo, I would show you just, you post your journal, you'll put in your your payment date. So let's say we'll talk about March, and I can make the payment. And the benefit here is just to show that I don't have to keep jumping in and out to make multiple transactions in Sage 50 when I'm doing my VAT. So now what I do is I have a VAT return here. So assuming I've got a number of VAT returns being performed all year, so my note down here on the bottom right, my financial year is February 2020. I'm ready to come into my RTD. So remember, this is our RTD screen. Just pop back to my PowerPoint there. So remember, I showed the PowerPoint and all the T codes that are in here in each box. So we have to look for these. We're concentrating our T1, our T8, and our T11. Okay, so in here, I need to put in the year that I was going to do. It will pick up my registration number from my settings and my start and end date. Again, go back to the fact I said that my year starts on the 1st of February. So I'm going to click on calculate, and look how quickly all the data is populated. So here I have my the 2000. So that's the value of my transaction on my sales, and I can see there's my sales invoice, and I've done that today. Okay. You can see our notional T8. So remember, our T8 was to be in the second box for the 200 euros. You can see we've got two transactions now for the third column, T8 and T1. And again, I'm just going to knit back for memory's sake into my PowerPoint. T1, so that was in our case equivalent to 2000. We have the notional T8 because we've no T18. We have T1 plus T8 in here. Okay, so that is going back to our T1 and T8 of our third column. And our fourth column is our T11. Okay, so you can see there, nice, clean, efficient click of a button. So albeit the work is all set in the setup, there's no reason then where the RTD becomes the headache. I can click print before I save. Okay, in this case, I'm just using the preview, and I'm going to show you a return and a summary. So what that's going to do is give me something to PDF at the end of each RTD period. So you can see here, here's my summary. And you can see the breakdown of my T1, T8, T1 and 8, and my T11 at the very end there. So all the details there. You've got the usual export, and you can export out to PDF to keep for record for the accountant. And likewise, now what you have is a format here of what the RTD actually looks like and the boxes that you can fill in on your ROS. Once I'm happy with that, I click save. I'm going to flag them, and that means that that has now populated a return here. If I need to go back in, I can highlight it and I can have a look. I can't change anything. I can't change the dates now because it's committed, but I can see the fields again. So if I have any reason to go back and have a look at the data, I can do, or if I want to just print it again. So again, I can see that I've got access to the print, and again, I'm back to getting the same report that I got at the same time I ran. So if you do forget to do your reports, it's no problem. You will be able to go back. So a couple of pointers to just remind ourselves: your regional settings, your tax code setup, the tax codes that you use when you're entering your transactions. So the most common example is your non-resale of purchases. So that is just finishing up on that one. One thing for a bit of housekeeping just want to note is that in your version 25 or below of Sage 50, the VAT code setup will look like this. As you saw in my demonstration in V26 and above, it will look like this. Same parameters, just laid out differently, so don't be put off by that. So there is a bit around the RTD, but hopefully what we've demonstrated to you is that RTD can be achieved very quickly out and accurately out of Sage 50. I'm going to leave some contact details there for you. Please feel free to contact us. If you want to book anything in for us to look at your your own RTD specifically, please feel free to contact support at pimbrook.ie as well. Thank you.